Thank you for tuning in to Highly Detailed News. My name is Kyle Shelley, and this is how we rank the 2020 presidential candidates. Now, this is by no means a justification for single-issue voting, but the issue of cannabis legalization is far too underrepresented. So thank you again for watching, and if you want more high-minded content, please be sure to like and subscribe to Highly Detailed News. Now, as we move on to what promises to be the craziest election cycle yet, I am genuinely thrilled to say that every candidate running has supported cannabis legalization to some degree at some point in their career. Now, that's not to say there isn't some confusion as to where candidates actually stand, but we do hope to clear the air a little bit. So, let's get right to it.
First up, in the red corner.
Now, this is not meant to be an insult against Bill Weld or Joe Walsh. Both of their cannabis policies are very much in line with voters, but there is little chance that they will become the Republican nominee. So, let's get started in earnest with current President of the United States, Donald Trump. Since taking office, Trump has come nowhere near keeping the promises he made on the campaign trail. Before the election, he stated that he would leave legalization up to the states. Then he appointed Jeff Sessions to be the Attorney General, who immediately tore up the Cole Memorandum left by the Obama administration. Since the resignation of Sessions, however, current Attorney General William Barr has shown a desire to deschedule cannabis. This is in no way meant to excuse, however, the lack of executive action that is both in the realm of the president, but also very much desired by his voter base.
And now, the blue-ish side?
The rating for Mayor Stop and Frisk is so horrible, he doesn't even make it onto our charts. Throughout his career, he has not only dismissed evidence from medical advocates, he admitted to early on trying it and liking it. Combining all of this with the fact that he recently used accidental prison labor to make his campaign calls, we will not be giving him any more time on our show.
Let's quickly move to former Vice President Joe Biden.
As recently as this month, the former vice president was spouting the same Reagan-era nonsense about cannabis being a gateway to other drugs. He believes he is being taken out of context, but his record as a senator found little evidence of this, and his policy positions have arguably been tied to an increase in prison populations. Investors have a problem with Joe because his stated plan to move cannabis to Schedule II would immediately kill the newly legal industry. For all this, among many other reasons, we find the former vice president as not dank at all.
Let's take a first look at our dank rankings. There he is, last and definitely least.
Moving right on to our next Democratic candidate, Tom Steyer. Now, this rating is not meant as an insult against Steyer's policy. Steyer has been a vocal critic of Congress's inaction, and on the issue of cannabis has stated that federal law has restricted him from investing in both women-owned and minority-owned businesses through a community bank he founded. Since Steyer has taken the Giving Pledge, there is a very real possibility that all of his actions are based in good. However, his inability to articulate the deeper, nuanced layers of the issue get him a rating of okay. And that's not bad. You know, if your friends pulled out a bag of him and rolled him up, you really wouldn't take it as an insult. Let's get him up there and get right to Senator Amy Klobuchar, who rarely speaks about cannabis in public. However, her campaign says in a short statement she supports decriminalization and legalization. She also supports criminal justice reform as a means to reduce mass incarceration. Unfortunately, she has made zero comments in support of cannabis on social media, except for praising the 2018 Farm Bill's inclusion of hemp legalization. It also appears before launching her campaign, she deleted a statement from her website that read, "I support Minnesota's medical marijuana law for people with cancer, multiple sclerosis, and other approved conditions." I can only hope the reason her campaign chose to delete this section is that it doesn't go far enough. For that reason alone, we give the senator a very hesitant rating of not bad. Now on to a candidate that is very difficult to rank because he has zero political experience. However, since that is clearly no longer a requirement to be president, let's move right on to Andrew Yang. Now, he does deserve some praise for having a very progressive policy of decriminalizing most street drugs and switching an emphasis to treatment over punishment. However, he did receive some criticism for saying he would do so on April 20th, his first year as president, which prioritized the media moment over people's lives. His campaign quickly changed course and said they would do so on his first day as president through executive action. This leads us to give Yang a rating of pretty decent. Releasing a draft copy of this proposal would likely increase his dankness. Moving right along to former U.S. Congressman John Delaney. While being relatively quiet on the campaign trail, as a congressman, Delaney made several positive votes for cannabis reform. Most notable, a proposal to allow veterans the use of medical marijuana in their official treatment plan. Another important policy he supports is banking reform. Lack of banking access is not only hurting growth, but it increases the level of danger legal shops have to go through in order to do business. We say Delaney is pretty alright. Get him up there. That brings us to another candidate that is very difficult to classify. While being mayor, he has had relatively little opportunity to make any progress on cannabis legalization. That said, he has proposed an incredibly flawed but very progressive strategy for ending America's war on drugs. His plan to decriminalize not only cannabis, but all drugs is by far the most progressive of any 2020 candidate. He even goes on to prove that he actually understands the issue by suggesting he would move America towards a system of rehabilitation and counseling over incarceration. However, the major issue with Mayor Pete's plan is that he relies far too heavy on the for-profit insurance system. His proposed policy of blanket decriminalization would actually be the most dank if he supported a true Medicare for all system. Unfortunately, as it reads now, we would no longer be sending people to jail for drugs, we would just be sending them to debtor's prison for not being able to pay their rehab bills. For these shortcomings, it leads us to believe Mayor Pete is fairly dank. Maybe. Now that he's on the board, that means next up, Senator Elizabeth Warren. The last few years, Senator Warren has been a vocal advocate for both cannabis banking laws and the need to end private prisons, as she rightly claims they pervert our justice system. There are several examples of Warren co-sponsoring and supporting great bills that would vastly improve the lives of Americans, yet she has had zero chance to vote on any, with McConnell blocking anything cannabis related. She also comes down a little for jumping on the bandwagon late after her home state of Massachusetts legalized recreational marijuana in 2017. Warren falsely claimed she supported the state changing its cannabis laws when she had actually not supported any of the previous measures to do so. Keeping an eye on the big picture leads us to hope that Senator Liz is dank. With Senator Warren in place, let's get to our runner-up. Congresswoman Gabbard takes our number 2 spot for several very important reasons. Her depth of understanding on the complexity of these issues, as well as her active attempts to make progress in these areas, is truly commendable. The long list of bills she has supported and written include protecting medical marijuana patients, legalizing hemp, and, most notably, her work to block the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs from blocking benefits to patients who test positive for cannabis. She's even taken this a step further by pushing a bill that would actually require the VA to conduct studies for the potential therapeutic benefits of cannabis, and to top it all off, she pushed for the expansion of research into the potential climate-saving benefits that switching to hemp-based products could possibly yield. In a statement she said, "Our outdated policies on marijuana are having a devastating ripple effect on individuals and communities across the country. They have turned everyday Americans into criminals, torn apart families, and wasted huge amounts of taxpayer dollars to arrest, prosecute, and incarcerate people for nonviolent marijuana charges. Our current criminal justice system puts people in prison for smoking marijuana while allowing corporations like Purdue Pharma, who are responsible for the opioid-related deaths of thousands of people, to walk away scot-free with their coffers full." Thank you for your work on all these very important issues, Congresswoman. We think you are very dank. And now for the dankest. U.S. Senator representing the state of Vermont, Bernie Sanders. Over 20 years ago, then Congressman Sanders sponsored a House bill to legalize and regulate medical marijuana, making him decades ahead of the other candidates. In 2015, he filed the first ever Senate bill to end cannabis prohibition. He was also the first ever presidential candidate to list cannabis legalization as part of their platform, and on 4 separate occasions, Sanders has cast votes on the amendments to protect legal medical marijuana states from federal intervention. showing that he, or at least someone in his campaign, is clever, on October 25th at precisely 4:20 p.m., he released a very incredible and far-reaching plan, and that includes federal legalization of cannabis by executive action and the expungement of all non-violent cannabis records within the first 100 days in office. Speaking in Iowa last June, he stated, "We cannot let corporate America take over hemp and marijuana. The people who suffered, the people who went to jail, the people who were arrested deserve to make some money from what is now legal." While there may be some problems with the Sanders plan if the tax burden placed on legal cannabis is too high, his encouragement of equity and co-op systems may actually be able to reduce some of the black market problems currently seen in legal states. His campaign has even gone on record to state that they may cover medical cannabis through Medicare for All. While at first glance, cannabis may seem like a single-issue subject, however, the many areas of our society it impacts makes it anything but. Since the 1960s, cannabis demonization has been used as a scapegoat to persecute people of color and would-be radicals, and Bernie Sanders has been there just as long, fighting for our rights before many of us were even born. That's why it's so obvious to anybody paying attention that Bernie Sanders is indeed the dankest. Thank you for watching Highly Detailed News. Please be sure to subscribe to our channel for updates on these and many other cannabis-minded stories in the weeks ahead. If you feel we brought value to the space and want to help us increase our voice, please follow our Patreon link. And thank you again for watching Highly Detailed News.